It's stories like this that show you the number of different points of failure that the illegal migration crisis that we are currently going through kind of represents. Because there's the first point of failure, which is that these people are even allowed to make it to France in the first place, that they're allowed to pass through however many safe countries there are between their point of origin to their point of destination. The second is that they are permitted to leave French shores in these very dangerous dinghies. The third is the adults, whoever the adults were, whether it was their parents or indeed other people who do not have these children's best interests at heart, who allow the children to get on the boat. And then finally, you have the UK government who are creating the incentive structure for these crossings to happen in the first place. Because that, I think, is the key point here. It is a tragedy that these people have died in the Channel, but the buck must stop with our government. Because for all the talk of cracking down and for all the talk of creating, like taking out the incentives for these people to come here, it's not happening. I mean, we were told that the one in, one out deal with France would have been a deterrent. That hasn't worked. The UK government has been running like advertisements in France saying if you come to the UK, you may risk being deported. Very, very weak language. That hasn't worked. It's obvious that the strategy that this government is deploying to deal with this problem is simply not working, because I don't think they have the will to actually solve it. And the human cost of that is people dying.
But some people might say that why would they not have the will to solve this? Any government with any common sense wouldn't want to be paying almost £8 million a day to house people who've come here via small boat. Any government with half their salt would want to stop this. So why would they not? I mean, some people would listen to your argument and say, yeah, fair enough, but why would they not have the will to do this?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons for it. I think one reason is just kind of the way that institutions tend to work, which is they tend to just perpetuate themselves. And the structure, the legal structure that's been created in this country since at least 1997 has really enabled this entire crisis to happen, because it has enshrined in law the doctrine of human rights, which at one level sounds kind of nice and noble and all the rest of it, but actually in reality is easily exploited by people who do not share our sense of honesty and our sort of tradition of playing by the rules as a country. And so it allows people to exploit these systems that we have, like, for example, the fact that we put people up in this very high quality accommodation and we put clothes on their back and food in their stomachs and that sort of thing. If these people were legitimate refugees, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. But the fact of the matter is they're not. They're primarily economic migrants coming here to do God knows what. I mean, there's only one reason you cross the Channel illegally, and that's because you don't want your name on the books, because there are perfectly easy legal routes to enter this country, as millions of people do every year. And so I think that, the government that currently rules this country, Starmer, Hermer, and others on the front bench, they're true believers in this doctrine of human rights. I mean, Starmer himself, of course, was a human rights lawyer before he was prime minister. Yeah. He
Charlie, you're spot on when it comes to economic routes into this country. I mean, we've had sky-high legal economic migration. We had sky-high, whether it's to come to work or as a family route, as a dependent, all of that's been through the roof completely. But if you are a refugee, there are actually very few routes to come to the country. This is what some people on the left will argue, that unless you come from Ukraine, unless you came from Afghanistan before the Arab scheme was closed up, unless it's a specific route from a specific country, there's no route to come to the United Kingdom.
Well, I mean, that is the case to an extent. If you have a passport, then it's very easy to get into the United Kingdom. And we know that many of these people crossing the Channel illegally do, because there's plenty of footage out there of them chucking their passports in the sea, right? And that's because these people are not legitimate refugees. Now, if you are a legitimate refugee who does not have the right paperwork to get into this country, I can believe that it is quite challenging. But the fact of the matter is, this is not the only safe country in Europe. And really, if you've passed through however many safe countries to get to this one, whether it's France, Germany, etc., you can. I think you should. If you're a legitimate asylum seeker, I think you would take the first opportunity you'd get instead of coming to this country, which is famously a soft touch when it comes to this issue. I mean, people smugglers across Europe and beyond market Britain as being the place that you go if you want to make easy money on the black market, using, taking jobs, taking work in things like food delivery services, this kind of grey economy that we have developing in this country that incentivizes this crime.